Mark Harmon's NCIS character almost had a different name. Welcome to Team USA 24, my channel. Mark Harmon has disclosed that his character on NCIS almost had a different name. The 72-year-old actor concluded his 19-season role as Larry Jethro Gibbs in 2021, marking the end of the show's existence. Mark recently talked about what drew him into the television role in the first place, and how the showrunner nearly gave his character a completely other name. "I read Larry Jethro Gibbs and thought, I like that name," he explained to ET, explaining what aroused his curiosity. "And then for a brief second when I decided that I liked the idea of the project, the name changed. Bob Johnson, or a similar person, was the one." No, it has to be Larry Jethro Gibbs," I exclaimed. I said, "Why not?" To which the creator replied, "No, you can't play a guy named Larry Jethro Gibbs." Mark continued, "And then it went back, and I was happy about it. Thank you, please share my video." A show producer mentioned earlier this year that Mark might make a comeback to the program at some time. Under case you were unaware, 10 well-known actors were under consideration to play Special Agent Gibbs. Find out who will be back for the upcoming 21st season of the show. Episode 3 Recap and Resolution. Why did Rankin obstruct the investigation in NCIS Sydney? In the third episode of NCIS Sydney, the NCIS team is faced with yet another case that confounds them on a bright day. The American who died in Australia in the previous episode was killed by a snake. In this episode, the murder has a shark connection. Jim, Mackey, and the others get together and attempt to solve the complex case, eventually learning that some well-known individuals are present. Bluebird's odd conduct keeps us entertained as she works to solve the case. One area of the investigations that the episodes regularly highlight is the use of technology. The case was solved by NCIS in the past thanks to gait recognition equipment. This time, the case is made simpler by a GPS tracker on a shark and a diving computer. In an attempt to maintain humor, Bluebird receives a surprise. Penrose's original assistant McNamara was returning, so although it was meant to be her last week, she was pleasantly surprised to learn she would be joining the group permanently. Whose arm was it that was severed? Although there haven't been many shark attacks in Australia, swimmers had to call the NCIS when they discovered a shark with a human arm within its mouth. There was still a dive computer with the words US SEALs wrapped around the severed arm. If his dive computer was correct, the American who was attacked by the shark was a Navy SEAL. All the details of the man's death, with the exception of his identity and location of death, were discovered by Bluebird. His suspicions of foul play were aroused by the fact that the dive computer's GPS had been tampered with. The bone frog tattoo on the arm was a common memorial used by former Navy SEALs to remember a deceased comrade. Jim and Mackey went up to the Navy SEALs training at the Penguin Naval Station to ask whether they had lost a diver. They were still a unit, and it's possible that the shark victim was both a member of a unit and an individual. In the end, Roy Penrose used his charm to identify the owner of the severed arm based on the fingerprints. The man's identity was revealed when he extracted them from the terribly decayed arm. Petty Officer Philip Coleman owned the arm. What role did the former Navy SEALs play? Following his honorable Army release, Philip's pension was sent to an address in Neutral Bay. In order to find out if he had family there, Jim and Mackey first went to the address. However, he discovered that the home was occupied by 2 former Navy SEALs. When Mackey and Jim questioned them about Philip's location, they acted as though they were unaware that he had vanished. In addition to Charlie and Hamish, the 2 SEALs, there was a third person living in the house by the name of Simon. Each of them operated an underwater wedding videography business. Jim and Mackey witnessed Hamish telling a man that the deal was off after he had thrown him out of the house because he had not paid for their services. Jim and Mackey sensed something wasn't quite right, even though there was no evidence to support either of them. Subsequently, Evie and Deshawn went to the address pretending to be undercover cops who were interested in getting married underwater. Evie discovered that the oxygen tanks of the divers had a massive quantity of MDMA. How was Jim aware that Philip had been slain? When the 3 were questioned, they all basically told the same tale. They were contracted to retrieve a party's goods from the ocean, and Philip worked with them. They picked up the bags and went back on deck, unaware that they contained an illegally high quantity of drugs. The The middleman was the man they had fired, and they didn't want him to get in touch with them ever again because they hadn't committed to salvage anything unlawful. Simon claimed that Philip wanted to dive himself because he was afraid about Hamish and Charlie. It was a stormy night, and it's possible that he got disoriented and a shark attacked him. The three asserted that it was no one's responsibility that Philip was attacked by a shark and that they didn't tell anyone because they couldn't have explained the drugs. Jim misrepresented a crucial detail after observing the three people's response and assuming that they were all fabricating a tale. Rather than mentioning MDMA, he said cocaine, and no one corrected him. Since the body had not yet been found, the situation remained difficult. Bluebird found a method to find the body. The body was found after she synchronized Philip's cardiac cessation time with the shark's GPS position. Dr. Roy Penrose was horrified to see an injury on Philip's head beneath the diving suit, indicating that he had been murdered before the gear was put on and he was thrown into the water. The unaccounted for unmanned underwater vehicle, UUV, had compounded the case, turning it into a homicide. Why did Rankin block the inquiry? The NCIS wondered if Hamish and the others were involved in anything far more serious than drugs because of the UUV's presence on the day they went diving to retrieve the contraband. The UUVs are employed to carry drugs out of a region or spy on naval operations. Neither the Australian Navy nor the American Navy owned this particular UUV. Someone else was using it, possibly to obtain some sensitive data. The three were taken into custody and showed the missing UUV when it was discovered that Philip had a head injury. Pursuing they'd struck the agreement with the mysterious man who Hamish had kicked out of his shop, Jim and Mackie were positive that the ex-Navy SEALs were pursuing the UUV, but they didn't know why they killed Philip. When Simon confessed, the truth was revealed. He was forced to do so since all of the data gathered from Philip's diving computer indicated that he passed away at sea level rather than underwater. The UUV that went missing was a spy drone equipped with a camera to capture underwater action. While Simon was simply interested in making money, Philip noticed something on the video that he didn't want to give away to the mystery man. After killing him, he informed Charlie and Hamish that Philip had gone diving and would never come back. NCIS got closer to solving the crime through Hamish and Charlie, who got in touch with the mystery man about the deal. However, Colonel Rankin from the U.S. Department of Defense showed up and removed the mystery man. It transpires that Rankin was aware of the DoD leak and had identified the culprit at last. Mackie believed the UUV to be a CIA drone and worked with Rankin to make sure Hamish and Charlie received Philip's pension since they were coerced into taking part in a salvage operation by an unidentified man who might have been a CIA agent. Rankin consented to the agreement because he was aware that if Mackie told the media about the mishap, it may result in a diplomatic disaster. The ex-Navy SEALs, who merely wished to be patriots, were saved by NCIS when they crack yet another challenging case. In February 2024, NCIS Season 21 will premiere. Release date news. Television news has been dropping rapidly since the SAG-AFTRA strike ended, and we can't wait to mark our calendars. All of the returning series on CBS have been announced, and NCIS will premiere earlier than anticipated. Season 21's premiere episode is scheduled to premiere on Monday, February 12, 2024 at 9 p.m. ET. For the first time, actor David McCallum will not be playing Dr. Donald Ducky Mallard in this season. September 2023 saw the passing of the seasoned actor. We're interested to see how the program honors him when they return, even if it's unclear if there will be a memorial episode for him. Will Gibbs make a comeback in a Ducky memorial episode? Mark Harmon hinted to a potential comeback in a recent interview, but it doesn't appear like we will see him in Season 21 just yet. However, depending on what they do with Ducky in this case, it would make for a touching episode to get a Gibbs remark on his late pal. Thank you for subscribing to my channel. As of right now, we are aware that Wilmer Valderrama, Katrina Law, C. Murray, Gary Cole, Diana Reasonover, and Brian Dietzen are among the returning cast members. We're interested to see how Valderrama's character Nick Torres is handled because Season 20 ended on a cliffhanger. Despite the fact that it's still a few months away, we now know when the show will return. NCI's past episodes are accessible to watch on Paramount+. Please stay tuned to Hidden Remote for updates on news related to the NCIS franchise. Additionally, the Hawaii spin-off is scheduled to return on February 12, 2024 at 10 o'clock. To see who is anticipated to return, follow this link. NCIS Sydney, the newest installment in this television world, airs on CBS on Tuesdays at 8 p.m. and is also available to stream on Paramount+.